Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you here to this plenary, The Game Changers for a Joint Future in Space at the 69th International Congress here in Bremen. I hope with this great plenary we will all wake you up after lunch and entertain you. Good. So I'm very glad that we were able to assemble such a great group of speakers here today. Unfortunately, Grazia Vittadini, who is also supposed to be with us, is stuck in Munich at the airport, but due to the great satellite technology and whatever we have here, space technology, we will Skype her in, and we hope that this will work. So all my speakers all the time function as role models for female careers in the aerospace sector. And of course, I hope that in the future, we will not only have one female panel, or that it will not be a sensation to have a pure female panel, but that it will be just normality to have most of the panels at least mixed panels and not so many pure male panels anymore. But anyway, now let me briefly introduce our speakers. First of all, I welcome Pascal Ehrenfreund as the host of our plenary of our session today. All of you probably know by now, she's the chair of the executive board of the German Aerospace Center. The German Aerospace Center is among the largest centers for aerospace in Europe, with more than 8,200 employees at 40 institutes and 20 locations in Germany. Since 2 decades, Pascal contributed as a principal investigator, co-investigator, and team leader to ESA and NASA astronomy and planetary missions, as well as experiments in low Earth orbit and on the International Space Station. Her research experience and interests range from biology to astrophysics. Pascal Ehrenfreund is also a research professor at the Space Policy Institute and International Affairs at the Space Policy Institute in George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And from 2013 to 2015, she was president of the Austrian Science Fund. She holds a master's degree in molecular biology and a PhD in astrophysics, and a master's degree in management and leadership. Welcome, Pascal. Thank you. Then it's a special honor for me to welcome Elżbieta Bieńkowska, the EU Commissioner for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs in the European Commission. She holds this post since 2014. And amongst her many responsibilities as a commissioner, she is setting off the right regularity conditions for the development of space applications and services in Europe, and delivering innovative projects like Copernicus and Galileo. She's also responsible for maintaining and reinforcing a strong and high-performing industrial base for internal markets by stimulating investment in new technologies, improving the business environments, and easing access to markets and to finance. Before her role as Commissioner, Mrs. Bieńkowska was the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure and Development of Poland, and the Minister of Regional Development of Poland from 2007 to 2013. She also served as the Director of the Regional Development Office, Marshal's Office of the Silesia region from 1999 to 2007. She holds a master's degree in Oriental Philology from,
yes.
From the Jagiellonian
Not aeronautics.
No? Yes. University, and a postgraduate diploma from the Polish National School of Public Administration. Welcome. Next on the panel is Simonetta Di Pippo, who you all probably know as well. She's the director of the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs in Vienna, and is mandated to enhance international cooperation in space activities to promote their use for humanity. Prior to joining UNOSA in 2014, Simona was the head of the European Space Policy Observatory at the ASI, the Italian Space Agency in Brussels. She also served as Director of Human Spaceflight of the European Space Agency from 2008 to 2011, and as Director for the Observation of the Universe at ASI from 2002 to 2008. At ASI, she also started her career in 1986. She has been an academician of the International Academy of Astronautics since 2013 and a member of the Board of Trustees since 2016. Simonetta is also a member of the World Economic Forum of Global Future Council on Space Technology since 2016. And in 2009, Simonetta and myself founded Women in Aerospace Europe together. Simona holds a master's degree in astrophysics and space physics from the University La Sapienza in Rome, and an honoris causa degree in environmental studies from the St. John University, and another honoris causa degree of Doctor of International Affairs from the John Cabot University. And she was knighted by the President of the Italian Republic. Welcome to Simona. From the industrial side, from the industry side, it's an honor for me to welcome Lisa Callahan. She's the Vice President and General Manager of Commercial Civil Space Line of Business for Lockheed Martin Space. In this role, she is responsible for all aspects of execution and growth for commercial and civil markets in human and robotic deep space exploration, communications, weather, and remote sensing. Lisa Callahan is also responsible for the Michoud operations and the related activity at the Stennis Space Center. In her previous role as Vice President of Corporate Internal Audit of Lockheed Martin Corporation, where she reported directly to the Lockheed Martin Audit Committee of the Board of Directors, she provided independent, objective assurance and advisory activity to improve the corporation's operations. Her prior leadership roles also include Vice President and General Manager of the Mission Systems and Training Undersea Systems line of business for Lockheed Martin Corporation, Vice President of Lockheed Martin Corporation's Maritime Ballistic Missile Defense Program, and Program Director for Lockheed Martin's Stimulation, Training and Support business. Lisa Callahan graduated from the Virginia Polytech Institute and State University with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, and she's a member of the Dean of Engineering Advisory Board. Welcome, Lisa. And finally, I'm sorry to be not able to welcome Grazia Vittadini in person here, but you will see her on the screen in a minute, I hope. Grazia has been just recently appointed Chief Technology Officer of Airbus and a member of the Airbus Executive Committee on the 1st of May 2018. Furthermore, she serves as Director of the Airbus Foundation Board and a member of the Inclusion and Diversity Steering Committee. Previously, Grazia was Executive Vice President, Head of Engineering since January 2017 and a member of the Executive Committee of Airbus Defence and Space. Prior to this position, she had been Senior Vice Head of Corporate Audit and Forensic, responsible for the Airbus Group audit activities worldwide. Since January 2013 and for 1.5 years, Grazia was Vice President, Head of Airframe Design and Technical Authority for all Airbus aircrafts, always leading transnational teams in multiple locations. She also served as Chief Engineer on the high wing lift devices of the A380 here in Bremen, from first flight in service and then contributed to securing first flight and type certification of the A350 XWB aircraft as head of major structural tests in Hamburg. Grazia began her professional career on the Italian side of the Eurofighter Consortium before joining Airbus operations in Germany in 2002. She graduated in aeronautical engineering and she specialized in aerodynamics from the Politecnico di Milano. Welcome, Grazia. I hope you can hear us. And just briefly to myself, I'm I'm the founder of the project of the initiative Astronautin to bring the first German woman into space after 11 male German astronauts that have flown into space. I'm an aerospace engineer. I graduated from the Technical University in Munich. I served for the last 15 years as CEO of AG Space Operations, and I'm now concentrating fully on bringing the first German woman into space. So, again, a great welcome to all of you. I hope that we will change the game. We will change the future of the space world. And I would like to invite our speakers now for a short statement on their vision for a joint future in space. No, you can stay as you like.
Okay,
yeah.
we stay.
Yeah. So Pascal, as the host of this plenary, I would like you to start with your statement.
Okay, thank you very much. It's great to be here, and I just had an interview before I came into the panel, and there was a question why there are so few women in space and aerospace and aviation. And I think this panel proves that there are quite enough. So it's a topic, game changers and disruption and all these exciting buzzwords these days, but they are much more than buzzwords. They are synonyms that our world is changing extremely fast and that we need a new approach, that we need to adapt and to face the future. For instance, when we look at digitalization, which creates new businesses every day and new business models, but businesses perish and new businesses arise. And this all happens much, much faster than ever. And almost every sector is facing this challenge, and also the space sector. And since a decade, we have also new space, which is developed in several countries very well, in some not yet. But I think we are all space professionals, and we have to make sure that the space revolution will happen and that it will provide increased socio-economic benefits for society. So I'm the head of a research organization, one of the largest in Europe for space and aeronautics. And I think that research and technology development really contributes a lot to the very dynamic space ecosystem. And it's like organizations like the German Aerospace Center and our scientists and engineers and support personnel, which are actually really game changers. We are more than 8,000 people distributed over Germany, and we do not only research in aeronautics and space, but also in energy, transport, and security and digitalization. And so we possess this really tremendous knowledge, large-scale infrastructures, many of them, about 180, and we can increase really the synergies between these different research fields and to combine the abilities of our scientists and engineers and work in an interdisciplinary manner. This is something I think which is really important in the future and really a game changer because always on the boundaries of different main research fields there is a potential for radical innovations. And we need, like all other organizations, we need to be competitive and we have to evolve. So we made a strategy in last year where in particular interdisciplinary and cross-cutting research areas are a very strong component. And we want to strengthen our space competencies, in particular in the important topics which are discussed at this conference: digitalization, artificial intelligence, cyber security, advanced robotics, just to name a few. And with this kind of focus on several topics, DLR wants to position itself as a really innovation driver for economy and for society. And somehow I have to be a game changer because I have really to stabilize a workforce of many, many thousand people. And we have to move in the future in order really to be competitive with other organizations and universities and what is going on all over the world. So with various measures also we empower and develop our employees. This includes of course talent management with DLR's mentoring and graduate programs. We have about 950 PhD students, so 10% of our employees are PhD students, and we actually train them, for the future workforce in aerospace. And we have workshops on gender equality and a career development center. We believe in diversity. We work with 400 organizations in 60 countries, but also have a lot of visiting scientists from about approximately 500 visiting scientists per year from 100 different countries. And I think that's the experience of all of us, that diverse teams are much more creative to rethink established solutions and can therefore be quite successful. So talent management and diversity is one important building block also of being a game changer. So I want to come to an end, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, also as a large research organization, you have to evolve, and we are trying to combine our expertise across different research fields to work on new concepts for reusable launchers, for new batteries for satellites, technological innovations in Earth observations. Please come to our stand, you will see all of that. We even are landing a little lander on an asteroid at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So while the space environment is really changing very fast, also research organizations as the DLR has to face the future with confidence and develop appropriate solutions to be a game changer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pascal. And maybe to the technique people over there, can we just display the questions only when we come to the questions sector? Because I think it's confusing if we do it while we have the statements running. So maybe we do this word cloud thing only later. Okay, thank you. Yeah, ignore the screen for the moment. This is, they're popping up the questions from the audience already.
We were not forced into a panel. Yes, we were really happy to be here.
Exactly. Please, Ms. Bienkowskaja.
Thank you very much. We noticed the first question, so why we force women to have only women panel?
Yeah.
We are not forced at all, but let me start on the same note. I'm very happy that I'm part of the panel where only women are presented, because I also deal in my work. I have a big portfolio with the defense sector, and I have to tell you, in the military world, it's much easier to find women than in space sector. So I think it should be also a sign that women are there. We represent quite a spectrum of those institutions that are dealing with the space, starting from public authorities and public money, through research, scientists, industry. So this is, I think, important signal also that we are also there. And I think I'm not as far as the age is concerned, but I'm the youngest one in the family, because I have just dealing with the space issues for 4 years as I started my mandate, and I learned very quickly, I think, that this is really one of the, if not the most fascinating part of my portfolio. This is, so I'm really putting a lot of energy, a lot of work to really to push the things forward from the public authorities perspective. As you probably know, we are dealing and we are putting, as a European Commission, as a European Union, a lot of public money to in a current, that we have multi-annual budgets. So in the current budget, we'll have 12 billion euros for our 2 programs, Galileo and Copernicus. In the future budgets, we are proposing 16 billion euros, so a little bit more. But I think from our perspective as the public authorities, this is really a sector which is developing, as Pascal said, extremely quickly, which is giving us enormous opportunities in Europe, for our companies especially, to use our data and to use our pictures and to really grow and develop their businesses on this basis. If you let me, I will just say a few words on the maybe future and challenges. So we see in the European Commission, you know probably also that in 2016 we adopted our European space strategy, the first such document that is really putting a vision, putting ambitious, and now we have to complement it with some money which will be both public and private. This is important. This is one of the challenges, that really private sector is becoming more and more really initiator of the space projects. Of course, they are very often supported by public finances, but we need very much to work hand in hand, and that's why I use any occasion to discuss and to see and to interact with the industry. The second challenge, as I challenge, or the future, how I say it, is of course the quote users first. This is something which is very visible now in the space sector. Space is a really big, if not the biggest, data provider at the services of new services, of the new applications. So this is our approach in the European Commission. And of course, the links I mentioned, security and defense, this is something that is really also very much growing in the terms of discussion, but also in the very concrete terms of our next budgetary proposals. As I mentioned before, maybe the other way around. As I came to the Commission 4 years ago, we were not a very good moment for the space sector. It was just after the false launch of one of our Galileo satellites. So it was not very easy to convince also my colleagues, public politicians, you know, in the Commission to really get engaged in Galileo even more. But we managed, and now I have to tell you that I keep repeating this, but I think it's important, especially to keep repeating this in Europe, that we are really second space power first. The second point, that we are really delivering on our commitments. We have really two top genuine programs delivering data, delivering pictures, Galileo and Copernicus, both of them on budget, on time. We have now 26 satellites in the Galileo constellation. As I came, there were 2 of them. Yes, so now, 22 of them under my mandate. Not the constellation is almost completed. For Copernicus, the same. Let me also mention this in this initial word. I think it's very important also for everybody to know that Copernicus will be definitely instrumental and will be European tool to promote and to mark our leadership in fighting climate change. This is something that we really very much want to show to the world, that we are at the very front line on this subject, and we use our Copernicus and of course Copernicus data and pictures to use it. We will still keep on in the next year to come. I mentioned this bigger budget that we are proposing, because we definitely see a space sector as one of the future really basic sector for Europe. We will still keep the free, full, open access to data as it is now. And let me just conclude by saying that, of course, we are working mostly within European Union and between European Union member states, but we are very much open to cooperation with the others. We have now 400 million users worldwide for Galileo. This is really enormous number. We have for Copernicus, we have a cooperation agreement with US, with Australia, with Brazil, Colombia, and India, and 1.6 billion people is really also covered by the Copernicus activities. So this is something really that I see as an extremely fascinating subject, and I didn't really expect it 4 years ago that it will be changing. It would be changing so fast. Really, I experience it with my own eyes that really the world around us is changing, and the space is really very instrumental for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Simona, it's always a pleasure for me to be on a panel with you. And I look forward to your vision for the UN Space Office.
Thank you, Claudia, and good afternoon, everyone. It's really, it's really a pleasure for me to be part of this team of game changers, and it's really also the title of this discussion here is quite interesting for a joint future in space. Well, in reality, I believe that at least in space activities, we have to consider that it's now 6 decades that since the beginning of the space age, and the space sector has been changing a lot, and now it is already an effective tool for economic and social development, and we can consider now space activities as a cornerstone of our modern society. And in a way, no decision making in any country in the world can avoid to think about space and to use space and space-based data and infrastructure. So we really cannot do anything without space. And you know, the Office for Outer Space Affairs was created in '59. And at that time, we had only two main countries dealing with space activities. At that time, the Soviet Union and the United States of America. Now we count more than 70 countries which have established a national space program and have either a space agency or a national space coordination office. And we have thousands of non-state space actors really trying to play their game. So the entire sector is becoming disruptive in terms of, let's say, game changer. And also the economic value of the sector is increasing. I mean, I would say exponentially. And as I said, the number of players, the number of activities, the applications and services which can be developed by everyone in the world independently from the fact if a given country is really owning a space asset. So this is really, really extremely important, at least for the kind of job that we do. But this also implies that we really need let's say, we have to focus on what we call the global space governance, because otherwise too many players in not a coordinated manner, this could become even a problem in the future, if not already now. And what else than the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, which again was created at the same time of the Office for Outer Space Affairs, and is now counting 87 members, becoming 92 by the end of the year, because we have 5 more applications. And this is quite an interesting statistical data. When I took up duty in 2014, we had 73 members. Now we are getting 92, which means that just in 4 years, we had an increase of about 25%. Now, this is quite interesting because it means that more and more developing and emerging countries do believe that being part of this family, being part of the space diplomacy process is what they need to do. They need to be involved in space activities at the global level to develop their economy, to develop their society, and to be able to have their voice heard. I cannot avoid in a way, because as the agenda for the next coming years, for the next 12 years. As you know, all of you know that in 2015, the UN and all the member states of the UN approved the so-called 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And all member states are committed to, by 2030, to try really to fulfill the goals of the 2030 Agenda. And we recently did a study, quite detailed, together with the European GNSS Agency, and putting together Galileo, EGNSS, which means EGNOS and Galileo plus Copernicus, we found that 65 out of the 169 targets of the SDGs are really reliant on space activities, which means that more or less 40%. Now, if we combine also the other infrastructures which are already existing, and we also include telecom satellites, we have an estimation that this importance, I mean the importance of space for the fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals will increase rapidly. So for me, this is quite an obvious conclusion. We need really to coordinate better all the players, and so we have a platform already where all the stakeholders can really have their voice and can contribute and participate, which, as I said, is the United Nations, and in particular the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. We have also some activities to prepare the discussions at the level of COPOS, in particular the high-level forum. By the way, the next high-level forum is organized together with the German government and DLR, so we're working hard together with Pascal, and it will be from the 13th to the 16th of November, and will really be a key moment to discuss the future strategy of the UN in space. So all in all, I would say that without space, we cannot live anymore. And so I believe that this is also a game changer. Thank you.
So now we come to the industry side of the game. And Lisa, I would like you for your statement before we switch via Skype then to Grazia.
Claudia, thank you so much. And I am actually humbled to be on stage with these women. Incredible accomplishments. And that is game-changing to see a panel full of women, which is awesome. You know, I often tell people that I have the best job in the world because we do really cool stuff everywhere from building commercial communication satellites to weather satellites that are protecting our planet and our property and our people, to planetary exploration satellites that are exploring the solar system, to human spacecraft that will take humans back to the moon and beyond. So it is a really exciting time for space. And there's, as everyone has said, there's more and more people that are interested in getting involved in space, and space is having a larger and larger impact on our world. And so it's great to be a part of it now. And I think it's wonderful that we talk about a joint future in space, because I really think for those of us that have been in space for quite some time, it's a very, very harsh environment. And we really have to do it together for us to be successful, whether that's exploring the solar system or doing great science or going and taking humans farther than before. And I just think of examples like our InSight Mars lander, which was launched in May in partnership with NASA. It has an instrument on it from DLR that's going, and an instrument from CNES that's going to help us to explore the inner core of the planet and understand its makeup and how that could apply to Earth. And on top of that, it has instruments that are going to help us to understand how humans may have to interact on that planet as well. And so it's just a great example, I think, of where we've come across industry and across organizations to work together to help to explore in the future. So it's a very exciting time, and I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lisa. I hope that Grazia can hear us, and I hope that we see her on the screen in a moment. Yes.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Hello.
Yay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Bremen. Moin moin from Munich, where I'm stuck because of a heavily delayed flight. I'm really disappointed not to be able to join you in person today. I never had the privilege of knowing personally anyone having had an asteroid named after her. And today on stage, there's two at once, Simonetta and Pascal, and of course, Lisa, Elzbieta. It would have been awesome to be able to sit with you today and elaborate on the game changers topic. When mentioning game changers in space, well, one cannot avoid mentioning new space, right? New space, which sometimes sounds like a bit of a Hollywood movie, somewhere between science fiction, Wild West, Gold Rush, with a bunch of billionaires in the starring roles. The fact is that because of all this, today I can comfortably speak about sending drones on Mars without being locked up in a sanatorium straight away. Because indeed, I am persuaded that being able to think the unthinkable is the first step towards achieving the unachievable. And so, what is behind this buzz for Airbus? What's in it for us as a global player, taking into account that Airbus has a very, very vast product portfolio, going from space, so Earth observation, navigation, science satellites, telecom satellites, launchers, ground segments, manned aerospace, of course, commercial aviation, helicopters, unmanned air systems, and urban air mobility systems. So what's in it for us as global players? With our 130,000 employees across more than 50 sites worldwide. First of all, digitalization. Digitalization, as in all other industries, enables us to translate processes, right? Expensive, complex, lengthy processes to work in a faster, more frugal way, finding simplicity in complexity. And this not only when it comes to specific space missions, for instance, such as communication, navigation missions, but also when we look at the hardware side of it and at manufacturing. So thanks to digitalization, we are really going into a new class of hardware, of equipment and systems, modularized and standardized. And in terms of manufacturing, well, if you ever do come by in Toulouse, come and have a look at our facilities, our manufacturing facilities and assembly line for OneWeb, where we really took the lessons learned out of commercial aviation and did implement a paradigm shift, which enables us in a fully automatized and digitally driven factory to go from 15 satellites per year to 15 satellites assembled per week. So this is what digitalization is, among other things, for Airbus. Then I would highlight commercialization, certainly. While space technology has long been firmly in state-owned and institutional hands, whereas technological progress continues to open up new business opportunities in space, and it attracts very significant private capital and entrepreneurship. Since 2000, we know nearly $20 billion have been privately invested alone in space startups. And that's where we at Airbus are looking also at expanding the traditional boundaries of our satellite platforms to offer really complete end-to-end technical solution and proposing more and more services, even when it comes, for instance, to the ground segment, going more and more into a type of multi-purpose ground station network concept as a service. And another example in this sense is Bartolomeo, commodity space platform. We're going to be docking on the ISS mid-19, so it will be the European Columbus module, really opening to the scientific community, private and institutional, the ISS, for missions in the field of Earth observation, technology demonstration, astro and heliophysics, material technology, and so on and so forth. As third axis, I would like to mention personalization. Indeed, 16 of the world's 500 richest people invest actively in space. This brings a lot of public attention to the topic, private capital, and a totally different willingness to take risks and to embrace, really, to go into adoption of new business models. So putting all this together, all new applications for a global player like Airbus, be it real-time images from space for your self-driving taxi, production in space, or live streaming of movies on board our aircraft, all new applications are possible if the infrastructure is in place. Look at the way Amazon did it, for instance, 25 years ago or so. It would have never been possible to roll it out like Jeff Bezos did if he hadn't been able to leverage on a whole bunch of already existing infrastructure, right? So payment systems via credit cards, delivery system was already there, and most importantly, the internet provided easy ordering and communication. And in this sense, Airbus, as a global player, just like the internet once did, will continue contributing, creating for new space a new infrastructure. And when we really do reach the threshold where the use of space technologies is accessible and affordable for individuals, then there will be really no limits to entrepreneurial creativity. Along the lines of what a team of young and talented Airbus colleagues is demonstrating at the IAC in Bremen now, presenting our moon race competition as a global challenge aiming to test and demonstrate the technologies needed for sustainable human presence on the moon. So indeed, at Airbus, we keep on flying high, and neither the sky nor the solar systems are our limits. Thank you very much.
So I'm very glad that this works like this. We come now to the question session, and this is now where you can contribute interactively with your words, as we saw already before in the statements. I guess we have to make the answers to the questions rather crisp, otherwise we'll not be able to, because as always, we're running out of time, of course. It's far too interesting and we're far too many here. So we'll see how we manage somehow. But yeah, let me start with the questions, and you will see the questions here on the screen. Pascal, what role will DLR play in your vision of space for the future?
Well, I think we want to be we want to sit in the driver's seat, helping new space happen, and we want to contribute with our research to innovative and robust satellite navigation, to global connectivity, to new concepts of space transportation, and I think we do not want to forget, we want to contribute to the future visions and destinations of robotic and manned spaceflight.
Thank you. And do you think the words that the cloud displays us here, are they in line with what you expected for DLR in the future?
I don't think I mentioned Brexit, but but I think for the rest it's going pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Ms. Bienkowska, from the point of view of the European Commission, what are the benefits of a global space cooperation for the European Commission? How do you see the global view of it for Europe?
As I mentioned before, the cooperation is really keyword for us. This is, as I said before during the lunch, this is our DNA to cooperate. Of course, we need to preserve and we need to protect our position in the space sector as a for now second space power. But the cooperation is a must. As we want to have for example, the full coverage for Copernicus, global coverage of Copernicus, we must cooperate with others. We cooperate with Americans, we cooperate with Japan on this. So this is something which is really crucial. We are not doing it only for ourselves. Of course, it's inevitable, but we need this cooperation. But let me also add, because I catch the word think unthinkable. This is something what we need in Europe very much. This is something we need some idea or some goal for the Europeans, for European people really to see space as a sector which is, as I said, fascinating, which is giving us this push, and which really engages the people around. This is something as a moonshots from Kennedy's many years ago, but something that Europeans, because we are doing really a lot of things in Europe. Of course, I'm talking about the European Union, but we are doing a lot of things. We are engaged a lot of money, but we need more, people's mind engagement on the sector, which I experienced during the last 4 years.
Thank you very much. Simona, with a focus on the Agenda 2030 of the UN and the sustainable development, what is your view of space in that picture?
Well, for sure, there are a lot of topics that we have to address in the next coming years, and that's the reason why back in June, member states decided to work for the first time in history on this strategic document on how to handle, say, space activities under the umbrella of the UN, which is Space 2030. Yes, for sure, there is an issue in terms of global space governance that I already mentioned. We always talk about what we call the 3S, safety, security, and sustainability of other space activities, because at the very end, space can be considered as a global commons, so it has to be preserved for current activities, but also for future generations. And as I said before, in terms of downstream, in terms of services and applications, you have a lot of countries which, and everyone can really benefit from the use of space-based data and infrastructures, even if they don't own any asset in space. So there is a real interaction and a lot of interfaces and cross-cutting issues. I would like to say that also, in addition to that, our Secretary General is working a lot on what he calls the new Frontier Technologists. And what I'm always advocating is that space is not a new frontier technology, because the entire field is really, let's say, bringing disruptive innovation and new discoveries, because when you have so challenging objectives, then you are obliged in a way to develop disruptive technologies to cope with that. So what we are trying to do right now at the Office for Outer Space Affairs is to try to integrate the new frontier technologies like artificial intelligence, biotechnologies, robotics, and you name them, big data, with space activities, and see how this can really put forward the agenda of our Secretary General.
So Simona, now the cloud was working again, and you see the words that came in from the audience. Of course, it's very interesting. So, do you think we can expand the UN peaceful space exploration to interplanetary species?
Yeah, there is only one point, if I may, that I don't like, which is impossible. Nothing is impossible if you want to do it and if you work together.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, thank you very much. Lisa, from an industry perspective, and in terms of human space exploration, where, of course, Lockheed Martin is one of the leading companies in the world, I think. How will this be driven, the whole future human space exploration, the interplanetary spacious thing, by the industry?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I think for us to do human exploration, right, it's going to take all of us working together to get there. For humans to be able to be sustainable on another planet or another part of our solar system, will have to work together, right? There's a lot of infrastructure that would need to be built for that to happen. And today, we're already working on Orion, which is the spacecraft that's going to take humans farther than ever before from a NASA perspective. But we're doing that already in partnership with the European Space Agency and Airbus, who is building the European service module that'll be a part of that. But as we move forward, there's more and more industry that is interested in space. And so to take advantage of all of that, whether that be academia and commercial industry and space agencies that have doubled in the last decade, all of us coming together, I think, is what's going to make space exploration really important and grow new industries like mining, which seems to be out there on people's mind. But whether that's mining for metals or mining for resources that could be used to take us even further into the solar system. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it definitely is a very exciting time, I think. I hope Grazia could follow our discussion here, and we can have her back on the screen. She already went into the direction of the answering of the question actually in her introduction speech when she talked about the technical developments and the digitalization and which impact that has for the future of space. So I guess you just have to summarize it in one word again, Grazia, to bring it back to our minds.
Yes, certainly. So the technology, all technological developments, which will have the biggest impact for the future of space, are technologies enabling a space ecosystem, which makes missions more affordable and more accessible. For instance, more affordable launch opportunities, the deployment of commodity space platforms such as Bartolomeo, the development of flexible payload and instruments, the enablement of faster, more efficient data processing, right? So machine learning to provide quicker intelligence, bringing artificial intelligence applications into space. Think, for instance, about Simon currently working on the ISS as companion to Alexander Gerst as a crew interactive mobile companion based on robotic and artificial intelligence. They're currently doing some experiments with crystals, and Simon will be used as intelligent flying camera also on board the ISS. More in general, we will continue relying on information and on connectivity wherever it will be vital. Development of the space segment in this sense, and the use also of particular orbit, including the stratosphere, so the high altitude pseudo satellite case, will be key for Airbus, and I believe for the industry as a whole. Missions which continue pushing the boundaries of our understanding will also be key. Think about Aeolus, for instance, bringing a new dimension to weather forecasting on Earth, and Mars samples, so return exoplanet missions as well, pushing exploration even beyond the boundaries of our solar system. Space data highways is also something big on our minds, especially under European viewpoint. We lost ownership of our data. Only 4% of European data is on European territory. On the analysis of this data, the artificial intelligence field, we know that the Chinese are coming on strong with investment we can only dream of in the years to come. So I believe there is really still an opportunity for us also as Europe to ensure through development of timely and adequate, technologically sane space data highways to continue also securing our space infrastructure in terms of security, in terms of technical independency. So I guess there's much on our plates, and we will keep busy for the years to come, certainly.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, we got loads of questions here in the meantime. A lot of them deal with the fact that we are a pure female panel here and whether that's necessary or not. Does anybody of you want to comment on that, or should I just switch to the more technical and content-wise questions?
Well, Claudia, just allow me a comment. Maybe
Yeah.
gender equality. Maybe gender equality will be really reached when no one will notice that it's an all-women panel. I mean, we don't notice when it's all men, right?
Anders gehört, aber es scheint besser. Okay, thank you, Grazia. So I'm just going to select some of the questions which I think are more interesting to all of us. And there's one to Mrs. Bienkowska. Do you think having EU and ESA engaged in space topics in Europe is a hindrance? Should they be unified by a game changer?
One more?
Should ESA and the EU be unified as one agency or and led by a game changer?
It's rather not possible, you know. These are two different institutions. That are, of course, we are cooperating very closely with the European Space Agency, but you probably know that members of the European Space Agency are also non-EU member states, so also non-European countries. But of course, the cooperation and the closest cooperation possible and the best governance of the program is of our highest interest. So they will not be unified, I think, in the nearest future and even in the further future. But definitely we are working together. We are putting a lot of money, and ESA is managing our program. So this is a closest cooperation possible. I hope this cooperation will be better and better.
Simona, there's one here for you. Is there a plan to extend the Sustainable Development Goals in space? For example, for ISRU or forward contamination of Mars by human activity. Do you understand what it's meant?
No.
No? Okay, then okay. Then, Pascal, maybe there's one. The private sector is now expected to be the initiator